Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. I've got another Master Duel video for you. So, in an effort to play something that's not tier elements, I decided to come back to P.U.N.K Zombie, which we covered last season. I think I just called it a Shizu Zombie, but we were still playing a pretty solid Punk engine then, and we are now. I decided to come back to it because I really like zombie decks. I think it's really fun to play 60 card piles in general. But I think zombies are one of the cooler 60 card piles with the whole like Zombie World shenanigans. Zombie World also a pretty decent out to tier element. They can sometimes still play under it, but in order to make any of their fusion monsters, they have to use a fusion material from hand because while they have any of their fusion materials on the field or grave, they are going to be, of course, zombies and not aqua monsters, which they need to use to make Kitkalos, Kaleidaheart, and they also will not be able to make Mud Dragon because they won't have monsters of different types. They'll all be zombies. Again, they can get around this by fusing from hand, though, so it is a bit of a situational counter to them, but it's a decent counter all the same. The other counter that I kind of went out of my way to include in this build is Artifact Scythe. This is, of course, less of a tier elements counter and more of just a counter to lots of stuff in general, but this deck is actually capable of pulling off some Scythe plays. You might be a bit confused. It's like, well, wait, you don't even have Dogda in your extra deck. How are you going to summon, like, Search and then blow up your Scythe? We're actually not going to trigger Scythe by setting it and then destroying it like you might traditionally. In this deck, we're really just looking to mill our Artifact Scythe, and then while Zombie World is in play, we can bring it back during our opponent's turn with Red Eye's Zombie Dragon Lord, and that's actually how we end up Scythe locking people in this deck. If you're playing the Eldritch engine, you can also, if you have Eldritch of the Golden Lord on the field, you can use whichever Eldritch or summon zombies from the graveyard to potentially summon Scythe back that way as well. So a couple different ways you could potentially do it. We're just going for the Red Eye's Zombie Dragon Lord, as mentioned here. Could also potentially summon it during your opponent's standby phase with a Baron as well. So there's always that backup option, even if you don't have the Zombie World in play. It just really takes getting to a level 10 synchro and then just getting this card into your graveyard. We have, as you can see, quite a few different ways to do that. We have a lot of milling with, of course, Grass and the Ishizus and Foolish Burial. We have card destruction and Droplet to potentially send it as well. So, decent amount of ways to get the Artifact Scythe into the yard. Artifact Scythe, though, is not the only unfair thing this deck is doing. As you might have noticed, we're also on a Braver Hand Rip package. I gotta get in the mileage out of my Royal Smoke Grenade, what can I say? But yeah, the Braver package is really good here because zombies can make a level 9 Synchro monster really easily thanks to Uni-Zombie. It's not hard at all. It's not like Adamantipator where we had to go out of our way to play like Nefarious or Archfiend, right? Just to have a way to go into the level 9. This deck can do it very easily. There's not even like one consistent combo line because it's just that easy to do. Another way you could do it without Uni-Zombie, though, is you could use Immortal Dragon to set up Mazera Deville. Not Mazera Deville, Alghoul Mazera. That'll make your Immortal Dragon level 2, and then if you banish the Alghoul Mazera through just, you know, a card effect like maybe Fairy Tale Snow or something, you can special summon the Alghoul Mazera as a level 7 monster. 2 plus 7 equals 9. Another way you could do it is just by getting this Glow Up Bloom on field as a level 1 tuner with one of your many level 8 monsters, be it Balerdroch, one of your Punks, it could be your Chaos Ruler as well. We have a Destrudo in here with Shooting Riser. That's honestly mainly to turbo the Artifact Scythe into the yard if we need additional ways to do that, but we do have that engine in here too. Could also be used to set up a Fairy Tale Snow in the yard. Just keep in mind you of course won't be able to summon her during the same turn due to Shooting Riser's effect, but it is good for setting up cards in the graveyard there. Droplet is a pretty decent board breaker in this meta. Some tier limit builds opt to play it, but we definitely have more than enough resources on average to be able to send with Droplet. And of course, you know, being a very graveyard-centric deck, sending a card off Droplet is often more beneficial because that card is better served in the graveyard than the hand or field. I think for the most part, this deck is relatively self-explanatory. It's less about fixed combo lines and more just about, like, you know, just seeing what you've got in hand and what you can make with that. Oh, there is one other thing as far as tier counters go. Because honestly, with every deck, you gotta be thinking nowadays, like, what am I gonna do against tier elements? What do I have to stand against tier elements? We do have the Dweller, as I've said many times. If your deck can theoretically make Dweller, you should have it in your extra. Not hard at all to get 2 level 4 monsters with this deck, so we have it here. We're also playing Pep, Psychic, and Punisher. This is in theory another great card against tier elements, simply because it is a Towers, and tier elements often have a really hard time outing a big monster that's unaffected by card effects. The cool thing is, sometimes tier elements can get real close at 4,000 attack points, right? You might think, oh, they can out the End Punisher that way, but if you have paid 600 life points, and that's the difference between you and your opponent, which will often be the case thanks to Noh-P.U.N.K Ze Amin, then your Towers, your Punisher, which is a Towers, your Punisher can actually boost itself up to 4,100 attack points. So the 4,000 attack real close, I think, is the strongest monster a tier limit deck can make, and funnily enough, you can even get this card very naturally to be just 100 points higher. So in theory, a great counter to tiers. Sometimes, again, they just do not have the means at all to out this card. Some do play the Underworld Goddess, but it is becoming less and less frequent from what I can tell looking at tournament lists. So it could very well be that Towers might be the way to go for a lot of these decks to potentially counter tier limits in the future. Alright, I think that about does it for the kind of breakdown and just general explanation of what's going on in this list. So yeah, let's just go ahead and break the list down card by card and then look at some gameplay. So we are playing 1 Glow Up Bloom, 3 Maxx, 1 Shinobi Necro, 3 Uni-Zombie, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 Noh-P.U.N.K Ze Amin, 3 Mezuki, 3 Shiranui Solitaire, 1 Fairy Tale Snow, 1 Gozuki, 2 Necroworld Banshee, 2 Keldo the Sacred Protector, 3 Mudora the Sword Oracle, 2 Kelbek the Ancient Vanguard, 2 Agido the Ancient Sentinel, 1 Artifact Scythe, 1 Noh-P.U.N.K Deer Note, 1 Destrudo the Lost Dragon's Fission, 1 Doomking Balerdroch, 3 Noh-P.U.N.K Foxy Tune, 3 Noh-P.U.N.K Ogre Dance, 1 Alghoul Mazera, 1 Card Destruction, 1 Foolish Burial, 2 That Grass Looks Greener, 1 Smoke Grenade of the Thief, 1 Rod of Silence Chaos, 3 Zombie World, 2 Emergency Teleport, 2 Call by the Grave, and then 3 Forbidden Droplet. There's our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Immortal Dragon, 1 Shooting Riser Dragon, 1 Chaos Roar, the Chaotic Magical Dragon, 1 Skeletal Dragon Felgrand, 1 Power Tool Braver Dragon, 1 Baronne de Fleur, 1 Red Eyes Zombie Dragon Lord, 1 Psychic End Punisher, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 The Zombie Vampire, 1 Vampire Sucker, 1 IEP Masquerena, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, and then finally 1 Access Code Talker. There's our list. Let's look at some games. Alright, the first duel we're going to take a look at is our match against Tier Limit. So, we'll get to see some of our counters to the deck in action here. Going to be taking the first turn. Looking at our opening hand, this is a phenomenal opening hand. Textbook. That Grass Looks Greener, backed up by Maxx, Ash, and Call by. Could not ask for a better opening hand. So, gonna pause real quick and just show off everything we milled. We hit an Artifact Scythe, that's really good. We hit Agido, and I believe no Kelbek, just Agido. Don't want to proc it though, just in case we are playing against tier limits, which we are here. But we milled Balerdroch, Mezuki, Destrudo. I mean, we have plays. Glow Bloom is in here. We have plays for days here, honestly. This is a great mill. Fantastic. So, gonna start with the Necroworld Banshee to throw out a zombie world onto the field. Now we get to use Mezuki to bring back anything we want from our graveyard, but I'll just go ahead and get a Uni-Zombie anyway. Uni-Zombie's effect will let us set up another Mezuki in the yard. That's going to then allow us to bring back our Artifact Scythe. Now, you might be thinking it's a little bit early to be bringing this back, but I just need the level 5 monster to go with the level 4 Uni-Zombie in order to make a Braver Dragon here. That's right, I'm going to set up the Hand Rip. So Mezuki rather, is going to bring back the Scythe. Going to sync those two off, as I mentioned before, into our... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going for the Red Eyes Zombie Dragon Lord. I did actually end up discarding the Necroworld Banshee off Uni-Zombie, so my bad. I misremembered. I thought I was going for the Braver here, but no, we do have the Scythe set up, and I was looking here and I was like, well, I don't have a way to bring back that Glow Up Bloom. Would have actually been great. We could have used Glow Up Bloom plus Braver to sync into Zombie Lord, and Zombie Lord could even have brought back Braver for another Hand Rip if we really wanted to instead of Scythe, but now here I'll just bump up the Uni-Zombie to level 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. Red-Eye Zombie Dragon Lord gets to activate during the opponent's draw phase. Opponent's going to change the tier limit's heartbeat on the zombie world. I don't know if they thought that if by getting rid of Zombie World, this would stop me from bringing back Scythe, but it doesn't. The condition of Red-Eye Zombie Dragon is to target a zombie monster in the graveyard. I've already done that. I have already targeted the zombie-type Artifact Scythe in my graveyard. Now, even if Heartbeat removes Zombie World and it's no longer a zombie, it doesn't matter. The condition's already been met. The effect will resolve, which is simply to special summon it. They end up pitching a Havness here, but it's not really going to matter, because like I said, the Scythe is just coming down here. You know what? This actually does matter. I have to call bite it. That's right, because my opponent could actually sneak in a kick close before the Scythe resolves. So, disregard what I just said. The call bite is the reason that it doesn't matter here. So we'll banish the Havness, negate that. Also stops it for our next turn as well, which is very relevant. Opponent adding Havness to hand doesn't do anything anymore. They are going to end up sending a Rainbow Bridge of Salvation off the Foolish Burial Goods in order to get the Pearlarino as well as the Emerald Tortoise, another Aqua monster to fuse with. So, I mean, yeah, I would definitely rather they not have the Pearlarino here, but what can you do? Looks like Shiren is coming down. They get to send the Tortoise and mill a bunch of tier limit names, but including the Mudora here. They get to battle over the Scythe, but that's totally fine. I could even, well, you know, if I bring back Scythe, though, the problem is the effect only works on the opponent's turn, so it actually won't extra lock the opponent during your own turn. This is a misplay on my part, using the Shuffler on the tier limit names. I always forget this. I always forget that Pearlarino does not care how the monsters get shuffled back. So by shuffling back my opponent's tier limit monsters, I actually end up triggering the Pearlarino, which is able to destroy my Red-Eye Zombie Dragon Lord. But that was a misplay on my opponent's part. They should have absolutely hit the Zombie World here. Would have screwed me over a lot harder. I can just bring back the Zombie Dragon with its own effect, so that I don't really care about. Top deck is Shiranui Solitaire, so we really would have been fine either way because we could have just gotten this Uni-Zombie either way. Now I get to Destrudo and send a card, or rather, summon a level 3 monster, summon it as a level 3 tuner that way. Get to make the Braver here. Braver is going to hand rip the opponent. Because I use the Deer Note as a material to summon that Braver, now I get to bring back the Ogre Dance, so after hand ripping my opponent, I'm going to sink into Pep here. And keep in mind, I can still summon the Zombie Dragon Lord from the graveyard by its own effect. And because I have a Zombie World in play, I still get to summon a Scythe during my opponent's turn. So here, we got to just bust out literally every single tier limit counter this deck has in it. And honestly, I mean, when you've got all of them lined up like that, how could you not win, really? Of course, I don't think there's many decks that could stand to getting extra deck locked with Scythe, and hand ripped with Braver, and have a Towers dropped on them. But that's what I really like about this zombie deck, is you get to do literally all of that, sometimes even all in the same duel. So, there is our first game. Let's go ahead and move now to our next one. Our next opponent is going to be on Vernusilf Adamancipator, and is none other than the infamous KK What. I'm sure you've probably seen this name on Ladder quite a bit. It's kind of a meme, honestly, to see the user KK What usually playing self-TK decks. You might be wondering what's up with that. What I think is going on is whoever owns all these KK What accounts is just farming them, right? They're just farming a bunch of gems and missions, and then they sell the accounts. That's why you see so many accounts named KK What, and why so many of them are bots. They're just all probably owned by the same person. Who's then selling them. But this appears to be, this was in Diamond 1, so my theory is that this is somebody who bought a KK What account that just didn't bother to rename it. Because you don't usually see them actually playing the game like this. They are usually on bots, but let's see, what even happened during the beginning of this duel? I was so busy talking about my conspiracy theories here. Yes, we were able to use an Ash Blossom to successfully blank our opponent's turn. The opponent is able to do the same, though, on our Foxy tune. So I'm just going to go ahead and summon this Kelbek, smack my opponent, and then pass back over to them. Being on just Keldo definitely isn't ideal, but to be fair, my opponent isn't really doing a whole lot either. So they're doing even less here, as I'm going to use my Kelbek on their Quackimir Guardian, and then I'm also going to use my Shuffler on the Revival Golem to ensure it doesn't proc. They do actually end up chaining the Guardian. Oh no, they don't chain the Guardian. I thought they did. Well, even if they had chained the Guardian, I still could have just used my Keldo on board to ensure the Revival Golem would not have gotten summoned. That way, my opponent wouldn't have had 2 level 4s to go into Gallant Grand, I suspect was what they were doing there. Thankfully for me, they don't have a rock monster in hand, so they can't keep this Guardian on the field. That would have been very scary for me if that had been the case. But here I'm just going to normal summon another Keldo, play my zombie world so that way I can turn these into zombies, which will allow me to link them into the Vampire Sucker. Now I get to use my Vampire Sucker in order to summon this Vernu Sylph and draw a card. Trying to draw it out here. My opponent's going to Ash Blossom it. Totally fine with me. This is going to ultimately put my opponent on 0 cards on hand and field. I'm in pretty much the same state though. I just really have Zombie World and Vampire Sucker up on my opponent. This grass obviously isn't doing anything, so we're in a good old-fashioned top deck war here. I'm actually going to fire off one of my Keldos right away, just in case they happen to have top decked like a Block Dragon or like a Gigantes. I don't want them to have Earth monsters in their graveyard. They're going to start by summoning Kelbek, and then, or Keldo rather, and then shuffling back some of my stuff. So now we're on a true top deck war. We each just have an Ash Blossom in our graveyard. But again, I do have the Zombie World and a Vampire Sucker up on my opponent here. I will bring back their Ash Blossom after battling, just to get some extra advantage, the extra draw here. Fairy Tale Snow, not a bad job. We could have had better. This Quackimir Guardian's a little bit annoying. It's going to get rid of my Vampire Sucker, but at the very least it won't be sticking around. They're going to end up linking the Guardian and the Ash Blossom off into an Asa, the Earth Charmer, Immovable. And thankfully, I don't have anything to get back, because my opponent shuffled back all my stuff previously. So, I can't just summon Fairy Tale Snow and Crash here, otherwise my opponent gets to search pretty much any monster out of their deck, because it's any Earth monster. So, for the time being, I'm just going to leave this Asa alone. I can take the 1850, that's fine. If things get out of hand, I have this Droplet, so I'm not really concerned here. This No-Punk Ogre Dance was a fantastic draw, and I think is actually going to be enough to get me out of this. I can pitch it to search for the Ze Amin, normal summon Ze Amin, activate Ze Amin to add the Foxy Tune. Now I get to use Foxy Tune's effect. I'll just go ahead and send the Fairy Tale Snow to summon the Deer Note, and then that lets me sync into Chaos Ruler, and from there, I should be able to find something, especially given that I have Zombie World up. I'd be extremely surprised if I just didn't find anything at all. But even if I don't, I do still have the Zombie Vampire to potentially go into as well here. Also, my opponent is at 5,200, and I'm amassing a good amount of damage on board here as well. Excuse me. So here I reveal Destrudo and Glow Up Bloom, but I actually want both to go to the graveyard. Particularly the Glow Up Bloom, because then I get to special the Balerdroch from my deck. Now I definitely have lethal here. I think the Asa search is no longer going to ultimately be relevant. Gonna overlay into Zombie Vampire, detaching this Chaos Ruler. That will allow me to banish the Asa, so the search isn't relevant. Even if it was gonna come up, it's not going to anymore. Then I get to special this Uni-Zombie that will allow you to set up all kinds of things. My opponent is actually surprised on tier limits. I totally forgot about this, even though I looked at the deck before, you know, going into this game, but I'll just negate that Rhino Heart's effect. Interesting, they're splashing a tier engine into Vernu Sylph Adamancipator, but I guess they're just jamming all the good decks into one, what can I say? But that's going to end up being enough for my opponent to concede, but I had tons of plays after that. But I think my opponent was at 52, right? Yeah, I already had enough damage on board just swinging for lethal with what I had represented. So, there's that game. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next duel here. Alright, this opponent ended up being one of those anti-tier stun players. This time we're going against True King in particular, that variant of stun. They've got all the floodgates that are legal pretty much, as well as a set of crackdowns as well. Opponent gets to start here, definitely not ideal when you're playing against stun. They're going to begin with the Desires to draw. I thought they were playing Sword Soul when I saw this. Then setting 3 before passing over to me. So once I saw the set 3, I'm like, okay, it's got to be some sort of stun variant. I have a very punk-heavy hand here. I'm going to start with the Ogre Dance just to get the Deer Note in hand in case it gets milled, and also just see if they had an Ash Blossom. They don't respond or react at all to that, so I'm just going to fire off the Grass, which does end up resolving. I'll do Agido and Kelbek. I know my opponent's not on tier because they Desired, and no tier deck ever plays Desires. Gonna use the Necroworld Banshee to go ahead and drop a Zombie World for my deck. And then when we mill 10 from them, we do get confirmation they are in fact on some sort of anti-meta plan here. So, I get to use the Gozuki to summon out this Balerdroch from my hand. Banishing the Shinobi Necro is fine because it just special summons itself. Opponent's gonna skill drain, but that might honestly not even matter here. In fact, I think I might even end up having lethal even with my opponent being under skill drain. Because I have the Deer Note in hand, I get to just go ahead and summon the Chaos Ruler. I want to do that anyway, even though I don't get to do the Excavate effect, because I still get to chain block my Deer Note, and I can also still bring the Chaos Ruler back from the graveyard later. Deer Note's going to summon the Ogre Dance, and then I'm going to move to Battle Phase. But my opponent does have the Crackdown. I didn't consider that, otherwise I would have attacked with my other two monsters first, would have allowed me to at least get in a lot of damage, but because I attacked with Chaos Ruler first, I don't really have an option to battle here. I'm going to sink into Baron just to make sure my opponent doesn't, you know, have the ability to completely battle over me. And then I get to special the... That was interesting. The Balerdroch had the little negate the effects window come up, but that's not what was happening. My opponent... Or rather, I was just summoning it from this graveyard, but... My opponent's going to try to Ice Dragon Prison here. Thankfully, I have a Keldo to stop that from happening. They actually targeted the Keldo, so I get to just put back Foolish Burial and Card Destruction. I actually like having Card Destruction, the idea of having that, because my opponent does only have 12 cards left in their deck, but... Here I'm going to use the Mezuki to bring back Uni-Zombie, and even though it will be negated, Pep, Psychic, and Punisher is still going to be the strongest monster in play, so I'll summon that to battle over this Chaos Ruler. Was going to use the Mezuki to look for a little bit more damage, but I'm not going to need it. My opponent is just going to ultimately concede right then and there. Alright, we have one more game to look at. Let's go straight into it. And our final duel here is going to be actually against Dark Magician. So, yeah, not quite tier limits, but it is honestly nice to have a few games where it's just not tier limits involved at all, honestly. I like playing tier limits, but I also highly value deck diversity, so I definitely do not mind just getting to show us playing it something else for a change. We did already see at the beginning of this video how we can very effectively counter tier limits, but in any case, I get to start off with a, what is it called, a emergency teleport here. That'll let me set up my Chaos Ruler. I even get to send a Mudora to the yard in the process of doing that. Sending back the Foxy tune, and we even revealed a Necroworld Banshee. I will of course opt not to add that, so I can just banish it from my yard and straight up activate the zombie world. And now by normal summoning this Bloom and syncing it with the Chaos Ruler, I get to hand rip my opponent, just going straight for the Power Tool Braver here. This will also let me trigger the Glow Bloom effect to summon the Balerdroch from my deck. Or for the Glow Bloom effect from my graveyard to summon the Balerdroch from my deck. Alright, Braver will equip the Smoke Grenade from the yard, and then I'll equip the Rod of Silence from the hand. They'll let me peek at my opponent's hand. Went by kind of quickly there, but Magician's Souls was the most relevant card. They did also have a Super Poly, though, that I'm guessing is going to come up. I thought about hitting that as well, but I thought that the Magician's Souls was going to be ultimately more relevant to their plays. Alright, so from here, I'm looking to ideally get this, not only just this Braver in the graveyard, but also have a way to get a Baron or Red Eye Zombie Dragon Lord as well, but don't really end up finding it, so just going to end up keeping the Braver Dragon on the field. It does still act as a monster negate, which is nice, and then we get the Balerdroch during the standby phase as well, which will act as even further disruption and allow us to draw a card. Opponent does end up having the Super Poly though, like I said. They are able to fuse my Vampire Sucker and the Balerdroch for a Star Venom, so yeah, they did actually end up having a relevant Super Poly target in the deck there. Alright, opponent's going to try to use the Albaz here, but I'm just going to go ahead and use my Droplet to negate it, sending this Shiranui Solitaire. I'm not going to use the Braver Dragon effect. to negate the Star Venom, just in case I need to do it later in the turn, which actually does end up coming up here when my opponent drops a Vert Anaconda. So now after they pay 2,000, now I'll activate the Braver Dragon's effect. Obviously, the reason to not do it earlier is because Star Venom could then battle over the Braver Dragon anyway, because its defense would drop to 2,300 from sending the Rod of Silence to the yard. We also, because our Braver Dragon is a zombie monster, we have Alghoul Mazera. We get to not only protect the Braver Dragon from being destroyed, but then summon back the Alghoul Mazera as well. So, a nice bit of unexpected interaction there. I want to bring back the Mazera as a level 7 monster because I have these Uni-Zombies in my hand. I can just go ahead and normal summon it and sync for either Baron or Red Eye Zombie Dragonlord that way. I think it's just going to end up being Baron here. That way we can negate the Star Venom effect, which would blow up our board. Cool thing is, too, I don't even have to increase the the Uni-Zombies effect. I can increase the Bravers and still sync for 10. That way we can send a Mezuki to the yard and end up with even more damage on board. Enough damage to find lethal here. Like I said, I'm just going to negate the Star Venom effect to blow up my board with Baron. And yeah, now we get to Mezuki back. Or we even have Chaos Ruler, so we honestly didn't even need the Mezuki anyway. We have far more than enough damage here for lethal. But it never hurts to add a little extra, right? Because why not? Alright, there goes the Vert, and then there goes the rest of our opponent's life points as well. Alright, so there are those games with the P.U.N.K zombie pile. Again, just cramming as many unfair things the deck could do as possible in there to, I think, some pretty good effect. Alright, let's go ahead and move now to our outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack. You'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation, you do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now, so without further ado, this is Maxx. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.